welcome to our IBI data quality virtual user group. So I know that a lot of you guys, if you were with us earlier this year, we did host a data quality virtual user group. So we are going to start bringing some of the user groups back for some of the additional products that we have outside of Web Focus. So data quality, MDM, you'll be seeing some of those coming your way very soon as well. So I'm super excited today. We have our data quality experts with us, Santosh and Steve. They've got a great agenda lined up for you today. Just a couple of housekeeping. As a reminder, guys, we are recording this session. So you will receive a copy of the recording after the meeting is over. We will also post it on ibi.com under the resource section, and it will also be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So those will be several places that you'll be able to find the recording if you wish to return back and view it. Also, at the end of the meeting, I will send a link to our evaluation form. As always, we love to have your feedback, so please take a minute of your time to fill that out for us and let us know how we're doing, things that you guys want to see going forward. Your feedback is extremely important for us. And then lastly, for Q&A, if you have any questions for our presenters, please submit those through the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Santosh and Steve will be monitoring those. We will be addressing those out loud and within the Q&A feature. So don't be shy, ask your questions. They're here to answer those questions for you guys. So with that, again, we're gonna dive right in. I know you guys are here to see the material, so I'm gonna turn it over to Santosh to begin our data quality user group.
Hi, good morning. Hope everyone is having an awesome summer. Myself, Santosh Pariyari, and I lead the product management for the data side of things in IBI, specifically data quality and master data intelligence. I've been with IBI for over 7 years in different capacities. I was hired to manage the healthcare verticals, and then over time, I've taken over additional responsibilities. I'm here very excited to showcase some of the key features of our recently launched DQ product. I'll go through some of the key concepts, the features, the innovations we made in the product in the first half of this session, while my buddy Steve here is going to put them into action as we wrap up with the product demo. As we go through this, once I'm done with my slides, I'll be looking at any questions you have posted, maybe address some of them right here, or have follow-up sessions individually wherever we need additional clarification. So with that, I'm turn off the cameras to save some bandwidth and switch over to my deck. And just quick check, can you guys see my screen?
We can see it, Santosh. It's clear, and you are sharing.
Perfect. All right. Just a little bit of background. We have had years of experience working with customers, managing and improving their data quality for their enterprise business data. And over the years, we have collected and put together that knowledge and experience to build this brand new data quality product. Our key theme for this new generation of data management products is data democratization, i.e., making data and related services more accessible to non-technical or citizen users, especially users who are business focused. We see these users spending a lot of time prepping data or waiting on technical assistance to get simple things done when they should actually be focused on running analysis, gaining new insights, validating those insights, and putting them into action. For example, with all the focus on AI ML, surprisingly, more than 80% of a data scientist's total time is dedicated to data prep instead of creating and training data models. I often use the data as the new oil analogy. Raw data is like your crude oil. You cannot just feed crude oil into your business engine. You need to distill, transform, and convert it into fuel. And so far, this conversion process has been very technical in nature, resulting in a very frustrating user experience and lower adoption. So we're trying to change that with the new generation of data management products, starting with DQ. We're trying to change that. We are trying to bring in a frictionless user experience. So regardless of their technical expertise, users can access and leverage all product features. We are introducing more and more no-code browser-based user interfaces, so users can accomplish more with less tools. We're making DQ an integral part, or we aim to make DQ an integral part of your data landscape by providing APIs, robust APIs for seamless integration. So every application, whether it's new or old, can consume these DQ services. We're collecting users' expectations of the data. We're applying domain knowledge. We're generating metadata, using that metadata to score and rank different data assets with the one goal that is to provide measurable, reportable, and actionable facts about data quality, while also improving the accuracy, the precision, the completeness, and consistency of your business critical data sets. Moving on, at a very high level, I'll cover these key concepts. We see two broad categories of users. You have producers on the right side and consumers of these DQ services on the left side. The producers basically have two subsets of users, which we call technical developers and citizen developers. Technical developers represent the skilled, experienced users who can programmatically implement data quality logic. With our new orchestration engine, we no longer restrict these users to a single tool or programming framework. In fact, these developers have the flexibility to implement custom logic using any tool, language, or development framework of their choice, but publish those services into our registry, into our service registry, make these services reusable, accessible, and widely available across different use cases and across the enterprise. The other group of users, which we refer to as citizen developers, are a new addition to this product. These users can now add additional content, such as creating new rules or creating new definitions for our data classes via our no-code user interface. Once these services and rules are activated, these are available for your and consumers are represented on your left side. Again, we'll start with the citizen users. These are non-technical users. They don't have to download a tool. They don't have to create a project. They have access to a wide range of these DQ services through a browser-based no-code UI. They can upload data, they can profile the data, analyze that data against different DQ rules, and gain meaningful insights without needing any technical assistance. Most of this is intuitive, and most of the things that you're trying to accomplish can be accomplished in a few simple clicks. And you'll see that in action during the demo. You also see a second set of users who are your API clients. These are programmatic interactions that you can build into your workflows, whether you're doing pulling data from different data sources and you want to cleanse that data before you push it to your target destinations, or whether you're migrating legacy data into cloud, you want to inject some DQ cleansing services before you push that data into cloud. So all of those interactions can be implemented through API clients via our RESTful API services. We have robust documentation around that. In fact, some of our core data products have started building plugins to DQ using these REST API services. And then there is a third group of consumers that I have labeled as data stewards. It could be a data owner, anybody who wants to access a reporting application that can track, so you can track and monitor your data quality by creating different reports, dashboards, even create some alerts and notifications around critical KPIs that you want to monitor on your data quality aspects of your data. The first, and I'll go through a kind of a flow here in terms of how you interact with the product. And that's represented here. You profile, and then you, as part of the profiling, you classify your data, then you go and analyze, and based on the metrics we generate, you can start monitoring and creating tickets and managing those tickets. So in this flow, we will hit on each one of these topics in a little more detail, starting with profiling. This is a kind of a new approach to doing data quality analysis. We have created two high-level phases in DQ analysis: profiling and domain analysis. What profiling does is helps users learn more about their data even before they apply business rules to validate that data. For example, you bring in a new data set, you have no idea what the data attributes are included in the data set. What you can do is simply run a data profile and gain an initial understanding of your data. Additionally, if you know what data sets you're bringing, you can set up some expectations, your expectations of that data set. For example, if you think an attribute is supposed to be unique, you can mark it as expected to be unique in your data set. If you always expect values, or you never expect any missing values in a data set, you can mark that in your data expectation. And you can also define how each of these attributes, a data set may have hundreds of attributes, and not all of them are critical to your business outcomes. You can categorize those attributes as having different levels of impact to your downstream applications. Once you do that, you just click a button, and then Profiler goes through different data discovery steps and compiles a summary of the technical characteristics of your data. A couple of screenshots are attached here. One shows you the completeness chart. That's the overall view of your data. You can see what kind of data you have, how many observations you have, rows, columns, which attributes are missing data, and what type of missing data. Are they blanks, are they nulls, so on and so forth. It also gives you insights into each one of your data attributes. So you can go into a more detailed view, and you can figure out, okay, these are the attributes. These are these are the attributes that are unique in my data set. These are the most complete attributes. You can look at most frequent values for each of those attributes. We have algorithms that generate masks and patterns for these attributes, and also give you the data path. But more importantly, apart from just giving you, this is a string, this is an integer, we can, if possible, we can classify your data. We can classify your data and give you more insights, such as we have discovered a phone number or email or social security number. And wherever appropriate, we can tag that attribute as sensitive information. We provide a lot of these out-of-box data classification rules, but we also provide a no-code UI. So users, end users, citizen developers can go and add their own data classification. So that I will cover in the classify section in a little bit. The other unique feature of our profiler is the ability to create profiling scores. These scores are generated on a scale of 0 to 100. They take your data expectations into account, and then generate a score that gives you how this data has compared against your expectation. These are pretty handy scores when you want to assess changes to your data over time. And this is also a score that we represent in our monitoring application. This is a score that is stored with the data set in the metadata layer, so you can create your own charts around, okay, has my customer data changed over time? How's the profile score moving? Is it moving in the right direction? Has it dropped below a certain threshold? You can look at all of those facts through just one single score. Moving on, in addition to just the core profiling features, we have some advanced profiling features, such as if we detect any duplicate records in your data set, we give you the option to click a button and you can purge all your duplicate rows from that data set. Or if you're interested to learn more, such as you want to see if there are implicit relationships between different attributes, you can run a correlation analysis. Or if you suspect there are clusters of data in your data set, you can perform a clustering analysis. We also have numerical analysis that can give you for attributes that represent numeric values. You can run percentile, you can generate standard deviations, and all of those numeric metrics you can generate through this additional profiling option. So these options are built into the product, and with continuous feedback, we intend to grow this area. We intend to add more and more of these advanced profiling options. More on the data classification, because this is a new feature that we have added, and we have added it so that enrich the context for the data that you're profiling by mapping your data attributes to real world entities. We provide several out-of-the-box data classes that are identified via a combination of techniques. We have built in some machine learning algorithms, some regular expression checks. We have implemented some lookups using reference data sets. And these classification rules can be viewed in a data class catalog. So you can go and you can search what kind of built-in classifications are available in the product. You can also create your own data class. This is done via a no-code UI. So you can just go and say, I want to define a new class and add a regular expression. Or if you have a lookup data set, you can just upload that data set and create that as a new data class that you want to identify in your data set. Or even use some of the profiling output. For example, if I profiled and there was a product ID or part number, and we determined that it had a unique pattern or a mask, you can select that mask and pattern, implement that as a new data class. And the next time you bring in that data set for profiling, these new classification rules will kick in, and they will identify this part number or product ID wherever they exist in your data set. This concept of data class is also important in the context of auto-recommending rules. What we allow users to do is when they define a domain-specific rule, they can also tag that rule with a data class. So what happens is if you want to apply, or you're bringing in a new data set, you're trying to identify rules that map to your different attributes, the engine will behind the scenes compare the data class with the data class that's associated with different rules and start auto-suggesting or recommending those rules. For example, if you have a rule for a social security number and you've tagged it as mapped with a social security number, every time SSN shows up in any data set, you ask the engine to auto-recommend you a rule, it will recommend that rule for your data set. So it's a pretty neat feature that we always want. When users are creating these rules, they also specify the data classes for those rules. It helps them and other users identify the right set or the most appropriate rules. Well, with that, we've concluded the first phase of the analysis, which is profiling and identifying the technical characteristics of your data. But then there's a second phase, which is going into more detailed domain level analysis. And domain level analysis is implemented via rules, and rules are orchestrated via services. So these are two distinct concepts that are generally mixed up. Let me explain with an example. A DQ service is a backend service that is executing a logic, specific logic to verify, validate, standardize, or enrich a set of values. A rule, on the other hand, is a kind of an abstraction on that service. For example, if we created a service and that service is built in a generic way, that it takes two sets of values and it takes a comparison operator, and then it gives you an output saying, based on the comparison operator, whether these two values complied with the specification. So in that case, a citizen developer can go and implement several different rules using this single service. So when I publish this service and its service is available, a citizen developer can go into this no-code rules editor and start creating multiple rules. Maybe one rule is compare these two pairs of values as integers using the less than operator, or compare these two string values using an equal operator. This is just an example. There are several flavors of rules they can implement using the single service. So this reduces the effort on the technical team to start building different sets of services that are similar in nature, but to solve different use cases. So this is going to be a very, very intuitive rules editor. One of the examples we can show in the demo. You'll see how you can go browse the service registry and pick up a service and say, I want to implement it in this fashion. And there is a rule that's available in your catalog. We provide several built-in DQ services out of the box. And for each of these services, we have some sample rules. If a developer wants to introduce a new DQ service, they can publish those services. They can build wherever they want to build this service. They can deploy it as a RESTful service with an endpoint. that is published into our registry. And once it's published in our registry, our orchestration engine knows how to make requests to that service, how to parse responses from that service, and how to serve that response back to the end user. So you can start doing that day one. There are very detailed instructions on how to build those services, how to publish those services, and how to leverage them in the context of a rule. Any user, and that's the first part was how do you build services, how do you build rules? Then the other side is the consumer side, which is any user who wants to apply these rules can now come in from the browser-based UI, look at the rules catalog, map the rules to their input data set. Again, you do that through simple clicks. You open your data set, you say, I want to map this rule against this data set. You map the input data attributes against the rule inputs, and that's it. In fact, if you have profiled your data, and there are data classes that we have identified during the profiling, the rules recommendation engine will start auto-recommending or suggesting rules. You may change those rules, or you may accept the suggestions that the engine gives you. Also, you can map many rules to a single attribute. You can map many attributes to a multi-attribute rule. There are no restrictions or limitations. You don't have to create a project. If you want to rerun a different set of rules against a data set, it is very simple. You go back and you change the rule mapping, and then off you go. It's in a few simple clicks. The same approach is from the API interactions as well. You define the name of the rules that you want to execute against your data set, and you define how you want to map your input attributes against the rule inputs, and you submit your request. You don't have to create a project that defines each one of these rules and how they're mapped to your input data set. Let me go back. I did mention that we do scoring. So there's another level of scoring that's enabled at this level. When you apply your domain-specific rules and you analyze your data, we can create another set of rules. Then those rules are, those scores are telling you if you have missing data, you have invalid data. If you have invalid data, but we were able to salvage and cleanse that data, or if you had valid data in your data set. So we can take those 4 categories and give you a consolidated score. So to cover that scoring, I have a section. So one of the things that we have learned is as we are cleansing data, we are enriching that data. If you don't capture the right metadata, you won't be able to track progress on your different data quality initiatives. So what we did here is we created a framework where you can consistently monitor, track, and report on DQ metrics. So we have built 2 levels of scoring at 2 different stages of the analysis. Each level, so for stage of your profiling your data, we are creating 2 sets of scores. 1 score for each of the attribute that you have selected for profiling, and then we'll create a summarized score for your entire data set. So let's say you have customer data coming in every week, and you're profiling that data. As you profile that data, these profile scores will be available in the metadata repository for you to start creating a report. So you can see how your profile scores are going up or down or staying at the same level at the expected levels over a period of time. You can also create these reports at individual attribute levels, but the attribute levels could be any critical identifier in your data set that you want to see how the profile scores are trending over a period of time. Same concept applies to DQ scores. These scores are generated when you do the second level of analysis, which is your domain level analysis. Out of your 10 attributes, let's say in your customer data set, you applied 5 rules. Each one of these rules will generate a DQ score for that rule, and then also summarize that score for the entire data set. So you have 2 sets of scores to go over. This is my profiling score, this is my DQ score, and then you have a complete view of how your data sets or the data quality for your data sets is changing over a period of time. These scores are stored in a built-in relational database, which is accessible to you as a user. You can build your own reports in the reporting application, which is also part of this product. So the charts you're seeing are built in a dashboard app in the native application that's running within DQ, or you can pull that metadata. And if you have a different reporting application where you want to create your DQ dashboard, you can absolutely do that. All of that flexibility is built into this product. The reason why we started creating this monitoring application, one of the biggest reasons is, one, you want to see the return on investment on your DQ. You've spent time building rules, you've spent time running data through our DQ services. You want to measure and monitor whether those services, the rules that you have implemented, are actually generating more value in terms of enriching your data, in terms of consistently cleansing your data and improving the business outcomes that are running on that data. The second reason is also to highlight areas of potential. Maybe there's a data steward who's assigned to a particular subject and to a particular set of sources. These scorecards or reports can help identify new or recurring issues that the data steward can bring to a data owner's attention, can start working on leveraging some of the programmatic changes through rules, or maybe making those changes in the data at the source, so that these issues are managed and the quality of the data improves over a period of time. A related topic that everyone has been very interested in of late is ticketing and ticket management. So basically, when you run data through these domain analysis, you can fix a lot of things programmatically, but then there will be issues that cannot be fixed. For example, if you're having more than 50% of your email addresses to be present in your data set, and then only 10% is available in that data set, there's nothing you can do programmatically to fix that issue. You probably want to bring that issue to a data owner's attention. You probably need some manual or human intervention to fix that issue. So what we have done here is, on your screen, if you can see, when you're building rules, you can go and define your own ticketing criteria. For example, if you're performing email validation and you want to define it, or you want to create a ticket every time the values are invalid, or more than 10 values are missing, or even the DQ score falls below a certain threshold, you define it here. And you can also assign a data steward who's responsible for coordinating and implementing these data fixes. And these tickets are generated in runtime. So every time that rule is executed against a data set, a corresponding ticket is generated if your data has these deficiencies, which you have defined in your ticketing criteria. There is an API endpoint where you can call and download all these tickets and route it to a ticket management system of your own. Or in our upcoming release, we are going to integrate directly with the data steward workflows in our MDM engine. So you automatically, once these tickets are generated, they will be routed and queued up against the defined assignees in those tickets. So that's coming up. That's pretty neat in terms of giving you the flexibility to take these tickets and create your own issue resolution workflow, or use predefined workflows that will come with our products, data management products. With that, I just want to cover the journey so far. We launched this new product back in September last year. Since then, we have gone through 4 releases. We have renamed TIBCO DQ as IBI Data Quality earlier this year, but it is the same product that's become bigger and better over time. We started off with core UI features, then we extended support for APIs. We added Kubernetes orchestration and Helm charts, and we have, in the most recent release, added you're creating into a user-defined data set. We have been new DQ services with each release and refining content over time. And finally, what we have planned for the future. The first one is very important in terms of integrating our data management products. We are integrating the design time and runtime components of cleansing your data in IBI MDM, which will include Omnigen. So that's coming up in September. We'll have a brand new MDM release that will have all of these DQ components built in. So you can open a data set, or you can create a model, you can load the data, you can create DQ rules, export those rules back into the repository, and have the runtime engine cleanse your data using those rules. That's pretty neat. The next one, as I referred to earlier, any tickets that are generated during the DQ analysis will now have automated workflow associated with it. So it will be routed into a inbox style workflow management system and will be assigned to a default data steward for a given subject or source. You have all that flexibility built into the ticketing criteria. Will now parse what the definitions that you have put together in that rule, and will queue up those tickets against the corresponding subject matter experts. Then we are going to introduce a hosted application container. So a lot of our DQ services are built on Python, and we also have a nice little user guide around how you can bring in Python code snippets and build your own new DQ services as you build your custom DQ logic. Instead of you going and finding an application container to host that service and create a REST endpoint, we will package a custom application container where you can bring in, upload your custom Python scripts. There are specific ways, instructions around what those scripts should be or how they should be created. But once you upload those scripts, the corresponding REST endpoints are created, and then you can just go ahead and register them as DQ service. And finally, we've already done native integration with ISM. ISM flow steps have DQ services built in, so you can go and add profiling step or a DQ rules analysis step in your ISM flows. We are doing the same with Data Migrator. As you are building your data loads and moving data from your source systems to your target system, you can introduce a DQ rule or a DQ profiling step, and that's coming up in the next release of Data Migrator. With that, I will hand over to Steve to do a live product demo. Steve, take it away.
Well, hi everybody. Thank you, Santosh. I will try to make the product look as good as you made it look. My name is Steve DeWitt. I have been with IBI. I was counting on my fingers while Santosh was talking for about 26 years as IBI and TIBCO and Cloud and IBI again. And for the past about 3 years, I've been the engineering manager for the team that works on IBI Omnigen and IBI data quality, among other things. And so what I want to do is just kind of walk you through a lot of the features that Santosh just touched on, and amaze you with the power of IBI data quality. So let's get going here. All right, we have a blank canvas here. So the first thing we need to do is to get some data into it.
You need to share your screen, Steve.
Oh, you know what? This will be so much better if I share my screen. Although the narrated version is cool too. Let's see. There we go. And I'll just back up. You missed the part where I logged in, but I'm going to go ahead and explore some new data now that I'm in here. And the first thing we'll do is we're going to upload a CSV file. And here's my file. And this is interesting and important here, right? Because every discrete case of uploading a file and analyzing it is an event, but I'd like to be able to classify that event as belonging to a particular data source or a particular entity or a particular particular application. So we need to set some metadata, and we're just going to call this, well, why don't we call it CRM, since that's what was in my memory here. Application, we can call it Salesforce, why not? The entity, customer works, and our industry will, of course, be accommodation and food services, again, because why not? We can also set some metadata about the file structure. We work with delimited files and can give you the usual kinds of options there. Let's finish that. Upload, there it is. Before we dig into that file more deeply, though, I do want to just show this ability to bring data in from a JDBC data source. So what I'm going to do is reuse a connection that I created earlier and saved, which I must have deleted, so let's not sweat that. Instead, I'll recreate it with my handy cheat notes. We need to give it a SQL statement. And database is OMDB. This time I want to be sure I do save that connection. We'll give it a name. OMDB people. No, we could set the same kinds of source metadata here that we did on the file, but I'm not going to take the time to do that. Finish, and that was pretty neat, right? That was about 275,000 rows that got brought into the system very, very quickly. And so that is how the JDBC works. Now moving on with the customer file that we brought in. As you heard a few minutes ago, the first step in our usual workflow is to profile. We can specify which columns we're particularly interested in profiling, which variables, I should say. We can set some expectations. Should something allow nulls? Should it be unique? Nothing in this file jumps out as an obvious key that should be unique. However, I really think everybody should have a last name, so I'm going to set that expectation. We can also specify the business impact. And this metadata is important because we want to focus our data quality efforts, obviously, on the things that matter the most. So I'm going to say that, I don't know, spending score is low, build is medium, and we'll create a profile. Now is when we just need to play the music, but not very much music. Our profile is complete. And let's have a look at it. All right, here's that top level summary screen telling us that we had 744 rows, 38 of which are duplicates. We have some null values spread out around. I said that last name should be there. 4% of them weren't. That's a concern. We can drill down into detail on every variable we found in that file. So let's see, the longest first name was 10 characters. That seems remarkable. I would think you'd have one longer. Age, what is the age? Age appears to be an integer, and the highest age we saw was 97, maybe. Looking at marital status in particular, marital status looks to be probably some sort of code, right? We have S's, M's, and U's and nothing else in our data. This might be foreshadowing for something that will come later in the demo, so pay attention to that. Now, jumping through this, we could purge our duplicates. Why not? We got rid of them. We could look for correlations. Let's add a quick one. I wonder if marital status and income correlate, because why not? And if I had to pick a correlation, I'll pick a Kendall correlation. Now let's go for it. And we get a nice green and white flag out of that. Looking at advanced insights, again, we'll be adding more to this as the product continues to develop, but we could do a cluster analysis and look for interesting relationships among the different elements in our data with that. Now, one other thing, going back to the variable, you'll notice that we suggested the marital status data class there. Interesting. And down here, we suggested the URL data class. How did that come to be? Well, let's jump into our data classification. And you'll see these two that are blue and not purple. And we have created custom data classes here. Marital status is based on a lookup file. And I will show you what that file looks like. It's very simple. It just has the 3 values that are acceptable in this field. And what the profiler will do with that then is apply this data class as it's going through the data to profile. And if it finds a field where above a certain threshold of the data seems to match the values in that lookup file, it identifies it as a marital status, probably, class. Likewise, looking at how the URL class was created, this one's based on a regular expression, which I was going to just pull out of my head right in front of you all, and then I realized I never would. So that's that. And so again, this one is no magic here beyond good old-fashioned regular expression magic. The profiler is comparing values to this regular expression, and if a sufficient number of them match, it is going to guess that this column is of type URL based on the type I created. Now, next step in the process is to deal with rules. Notice that a lot of rules have been magically auto-assigned here based on the data classification from the profile. So since the profile thought that the zip looked like a postal code and the city looked like a city, it mapped the related fields necessary for the address into an address rule. Going down, we see that it recognized phone numbers. It mapped those into the phone cleanse rule. Here's a verify URL, which we should go back and look at. But because this was identified as a URL in classification, it's matched to a URL rule, which I'll show you in a couple of minutes. And let's see, another email here. But let's add a couple more rules from the catalog. All right, age, as you'll recall, was the number of years old the person is, presumably. It's down here somewhere. We're going to say, we're going to verify that it's between 0 and 100, because there might be some customers over 100, but mostly we're just looking for sanity here. And if most of them are between 0 and 100, that's probably accurate. The other one I'm going to throw in is kind of fun. The review. Didn't really call your attention to it, but here, I'll show you the raw file. The review is, I don't know, assume it's a one-sentence Yelp review somebody put on the website. These people all registered on our website and they left a little something. And apparently we serve potatoes and pizza and burritos. And so reviews are customer comment on that. And this analyze text sentiment rule does some magic to look at free text and give an idea as to whether it is positive, negative, or neutral. So we'll do that. I'm going to leave the address in, even though I was warned not to, because earlier today I didn't have much time. But address is actually usually the slowest thing to cleanse. By the way, I should mention while we're here, we have a couple of different kinds of address rules. The one I'm using is based on a local install of locate that we are running a service that calls. We also have some that use locate SaaS products in which a customer has to bring their own API key, and they'll be calling services on the web from locate to do that cleanse. This is not that, again. This is based on a local locate install. So let's run analysis and watch the blue line creep across the screen as we're cleansing those last addresses. 18 seconds is a very short time when you're sitting by yourself, and an eternity when you're doing a demo in front of people. But now we're done. And let's have a look at what we got. All right, the first thing is to look at the summary. So this is interesting, right? Looking at our review, first one on the screen, 53% of our reviews were positive, 24 negative, and 23 neutral. We want to get those negative reviews down so we could take some action based on that, perhaps. 88% of our ages fell between 0 and 100. 72% of our addresses were partially verified and 25 were verified. Our phones look pretty good. Our URLs, perfect. Very proud of that. Our email, also looking very good. So at the summary view, we see our DQ scores. We see that we should probably worry a little bit about our addresses. Might want to look more deeply into these ages. Are they missing data, or are they just outliers because we have some very old customers? But at the very least, that might merit some investigation of the data. But otherwise, there's our summary. Now, jumping back to those rules, we go into our rules catalog here. You remember the verify URL rule. This is another one that I, as a user, added. And the way I did this was, again, fill out the metadata that would make it helpful, tied it to the URL data class I had created earlier here, tied it to more metadata, industries, entities, customers. Obviously, there could be more here. And rules in IBI data quality are based on cleansing services on the back end. For this one, I used a built-in service that's part of the application called Verify with regex. And I took that big, long, horrible URL matching regex and reused it here. So again, this is simply, before we were just trying to classify, now we're actually trying to identify data problems by comparing to that same pattern. All right, going back home, we should take a minute to look at the results. Now, we can get all the results of the analyze as one big operation here. Oops, that's not the button I meant to click. This one. All right, we got this zip. It contains a bunch of things. As our original input file, before and after the deduplication. It's got our profile expressed as JSON. Also, the correlations we created expressed as JSON. And results are interesting. You need to see this to understand what I'm about to show you. For every rule we apply, we create a separate output file. So for example, for the address cleanse, we see what went in, what came out cleansed, and all of these out fields then spelling out that it was United States, which was not part of the input data. Postal codes are sometimes get their zip +4, latitude and longitude, all of the many wonderful things they can tell you in the locate address cleanse. And here's the tag value for each row. So for every rule we ran, we have that file with inputs and outputs from the rule. And we have a summary of the rules we tried to run and information about any tickets that were generated, cleansing tickets that were generated in the process, as Santosh showed you a little while ago. So with that information, I can do a lot. But one of the things a lot of people want to do with this is essentially have a workflow that generates the equivalent of cleansing in place, right? If you are familiar with OmniGen, our cleanse between the source table and the instance table, it appears as if we've cleansed fields right where they were. So if I want to build a particular output file from this, that's where I can use this export feature. So let's say that the export I want to have has first name, last name, age, and marital status from the input. From the text sentiment, I think I want to know the score. From the address, I would like to know the latitude and longitude, because why not? For the phone, I'd like to know the local version of the out phone. And for the email, I would like the cleansed out email field. So we'll just go ahead and create that. I can set some qualifications for what I want it to look like and what I want it to be called. I'll just skip that, export. All right, let's go back. I'm going to take out this. All right, pretend that didn't happen. I'm not exactly sure why. Clearly, I clicked on something I didn't do when I practiced this morning. By the way, we are actually doing more to have correlation among those different results files. The next release will be stronger with that. We could figure this out in 2 minutes if we had it. I'm not going to right now. Instead, what I want to bring you to is, last but not least, our watchdog, which is the data quality monitoring application that Santosh touched on. This has my last 12 hours worth of data, all of which has happened in the last half hour. You can see that we've cleansed 744 total rows, and looking at this, we have had 1,880 observations. How many rows were processed? How many were valid? 84.3, I feel good. 44.7 went through some kind of cleansing, and so forth. If we continued to cleanse every day, we could, or every hour, we would begin to see some very interesting time series data through this in our default dashboard. It's also possible to build your own dashboards and focus in on particular data sources, particular applications, however it is you want to do it, all based on what is going into our cleansing repository. And well, we're running very low on time, so I'll only open this up. But note that if you are a user with the appropriate permission, you see this user admin menu that allows you to go in and do some configuration of the users and what permissions they have in this application. And last, I do want to stress, everything you saw me do in the UI is accessible through various APIs, all of which we have provided Postman collections as documentation for. No time to really get into that, but to automate a cleansing process is a matter of organizing several API calls to get through that workflow, and be happy to show you that another time. So I'm going to stop the share and turn it back over to Santosh.
Thanks, Steve. The merge, I believe the merge functionality didn't work because it won't work when you have more number of output results than input results, and it won't be able to correlate the output with the input. So we probably selected something that had multiple outputs, and that's expected. So
yeah.
I don't see any Q&A, any open questions on the Q&A. So
you just had one come in there, Santosh.
Sorry?
You just had one come in. Are there any restrictions on the number of users in the IBI DQ?
No, there's no restrictions. You can create as many users as you want. You have the ability to scale up your instance. You can run as many users as you want as needed for that instance.
Wonderful. Oh, and there's a follow-up question to that. Will it be possible to keep multiple versions of DQ roles in the rule catalog, rule editor with its native features, or an external version control system like GIT or SVN?
So the Git integration is coming up. I won't commit to a timeline, but look for it in Q1 of next year. We are going towards a more of a broader data management hub type of concept, and we'll introduce a Git or SVN when we do that, and that will allow you to version your DQ artifacts. The rules as they are set up today, you would have to create different names of those rules, SSN version 1, SSN version 2, and you can identify them, or you can deactivate the older versions by just going into the rules editor and deactivating them, turning them off so nobody can use them. So that's the neat workaround you have right now.
All right, any other questions for Santosh or Steve today? And just as a reminder, guys, you will receive a copy of the recording, and then it'll also be posted on ibi.com under the resource section, as well as our YouTube channel. So you can definitely find it there. I did throw a link to the evaluation form in the chat. If you guys could take just a quick moment of your time to fill that out for us, it's greatly appreciated. And we'll give it about another minute for any last minute questions. I know we are at the top of the hour, so we want to be respectful of your time. All right. Well, thank you, Santosh. Thank you, Steve, so much for presenting today. Thank you for sharing all this great information about the new IBI DQ. Looking forward to what's coming down the road and what's next. With that, guys, we will give you back the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any additional questions or think of something down the road, feel free to reach out to us. You can email Steve, email Santosh, reach out to me, and we'll get all of those questions answered for you.